All right, welcome back to the Progressive Rock Central's Noble Shire of Progressive Discussion. And a lot of you know Charlie. He's been here for several other bands, but today we're going to be talking about Empires Must Fall, the new album from Ghost of the Machine. And so many times I've said Ghost from the Machine, but no, it's Ghost of the Machine. And
Sometimes we get Ghost in the Machine, like the
okay,
Police album. That's
yeah,
uh, that's a well-worn that's a well-worn one.
and I think that's the first one that I made the mistake with is saying it that way. Yeah, but
It's easily done.
you have a copy of it. It looks like he's trying to get. Yeah,
Yep.
I don't have
So this is
one
our.
yet. I'm
Have you?
working on it. I'm waiting for
Yeah, I
the
was going to say.
mail to get here. Um,
Okay, it should have dispatched. Depends where you got hold of it from. But yes, the new album came out on the 7th of March, so just a couple of weeks ago. It's Empires Must Fall, and it released through progrock.com's Essentials. So it's our first label release. It's our second album, and we're really proud to get it out there. So thanks for inviting us to come on and talk about it today.
Yep, thank you.
I was gonna say all that, but he said it better. All right.
He never
So
zips it, does he? He never shuts up.
sorry.
He never shuts up, does he? He's all over you there. He's just done your own intro for you.
No, no, he's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with Charlie. I don't mind him jumping in there and talking anytime he wants. So yes, we have Charlie Brumald, but we also have excuse me, Andy Milner, who is the lead drummer, or the drummer, not lead. Uh, he is
No, both.
the drummer on the album. I'm so used to saying lead guitar stuff like that, but no,
Yeah, well,
he is
I
the
think he plays the drums in a leading role in the band. So
well,
lead
absolutely.
drummer sound it has a good ring to it.
I like that unusually.
All right. Their debut album, Scissor Games, was awesome, and they followed it up here now with Empires Must Fall, which is even going a step further. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. And
Thank you.
Charlie, is most of you know, is a member of several different bands. I'll let him I'll let him list those, even though I've got them in front of me. But let's. He says it better than I do. Go ahead.
Well, I think member is a strong word for some of
Okay.
these. I have guested on a lot of things in the last couple of years in between Ghost of the Machine releases. So primarily, I am a member of Ghost of the Machine as the vocalist and flautist. I used to play flute for Nova Cascade, but I recorded the fourth album with them, but I was unable to continue due to commitments with Ghost of the Machine
You're not on
running
the
into
box
this
man?
year. I don't play on Boxman, but
Okay.
that's coming out in April, and it's a lovely album, and I'm really excited for my former bandmates to get it out there. I think they've done a lovely job with it, and I am very grateful for my role in the previous four albums as well. That was kind of my first foray into recording original music, whereas Ghost of the Machine was my introduction to the world as a singer in a band. Uh, so
And
um,
and Boxman, I've got the review completed, but he doesn't want me to release it until April. And
yeah,
so I'm going to do that. I'm hopefully gonna get together with that band, talk about that album as well. It's an excellent, as he said, it's an excellent album. It's their last one, which is a real pity.
yeah.
And because they're just good. I mean, they have been good, but now they're reaching this pinnacle, and it's like, well, we're done. And it's like, no, don't.
Well,
But
leave them
he's
wanting more. Don't outstay your welcome.
well, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, you grab it, move on to something else when you've hit, the top of the line. But
Yeah,
Charlie's also been with Age of Distraction, which last year that was
that was
one of my
last year. Yeah.
favorites. And we're ignoring Andy. So, Andy, tell us a little bit about what you do, bands that you're in, or go ahead.
This is the only prog band I'm in these days. In fact, it's the only prog band I've ever been in, bar t'other one. And now this is my main project at this point. I do a couple of cover bands and stuff in my spare time, but this is my original music, which I put 100% into. This is my main focus.
All right. And he really does a fantastic job on drums, as you
Yeah,
can
thank
see Charlie nodding. And if you listen to it, you'll absolutely hear that. Um, and Charlie described, maybe I should let him do it, but he described Empires Must Fall as more denser, darker arrangements. That it scratches your prog itch. I like that. And also carefully balances the shorter with the longer songs. And there are some epics and there are some great short songs as well. We're going to talk about as many as they want to talk about. Um, just in case somebody's listening to this for the first time, just tell us how you guys got started, and then we'll go from there.
Andy, do you want to take that one? Because you invited me to the band.
Yeah. We decided the 5 musicians decided that the music we were writing was in a different direction to another project. So we left that project, and as we'd already had experience of Charlie's vocals through one time he stood in for a gig with us. Plus, we knew him; he'd been a fan of that band for a while. We all knew him as a lovely chap. And so when the question came up, who do we want to go with this? What singer do we want for this? What would suit what we want to do? We immediately said Charlie. All 5 of us. That was like unanimous straight
In
away.
unison. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying in unison.
Yeah. No, it was. It pretty much was, because it was I think it was like I can't remember if it was a Zoom call. I think it was, because it was just at the beginning
during
of
the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, just at the beginning of COVID. So we were all sat around at home talking like this, like we are now. And it pretty much, with all our faces on the one screen, we all said, Charlie, that's all it would go. So, and that was that. And he accepted, which was great, because actually we never really thought he wouldn't for some reason, We just thought, yeah, Charlie. And then luckily he did. So that fell together really quite well. But
I don't think he says no that often.
No,
and I hope he
emerging
never
mark.
does, because his voice is great.
Well, I'm learning to not accept everything that comes my way, even if I really want to do it, because as I mentioned, Ghost of the Machine is kind of our main focus. If it's Andy's main focus, it certainly is mine, and I think it's probably true of all the guys. This is our main outlet for writing and performing original music. So while I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've had, and I'm very grateful for every offer that I receive, can't do everything. And at the moment, because this is an important release for us, it's our first release on a label. It's our second album, and there were going into it, there were a fair few expectations as well from the fan base that we built up during the course of Scissor Games' release cycle, and we wanted to do those expectations justice. I think we have with the record, but now we need to go out there and take it to people. We need to shout from the rooftops about how much we love it and how much we think other people are going to love it. We need to go play live, and we need to promote the heck out of it. So that's my main focus for the time being.
And yeah, a lot of people fear that sophomore album that, you're going to, they did a fantastic job on the first one and then the second one. But no, you don't have to worry about that here. They definitely did. Andy is, I think, talking the band he used to be in, that was the Winter Machine, right? And you brought over some other members from that band. Mention, if you can, just mention everyone's name and what instruments they play, just so we get the full band, even though they weren't able to make it here today. They're Charlie said they're doing weekend gigs and things like that. and couldn't
Yeah.
make it. But go ahead.
Plus, I think it can be a bit chaotic when you have too many people on one of these calls. So you got the young one and the good looking one.
You've certainly got the best too. Put it that way.
I hope they watch this. I really hope they watch this. So you've got Mark Hagan on keys. You've got Graham Garbutt and Scott Owens on guitars. You've got Stuart Macaulay on bass and pedals, as well as myself on vocals, sometimes flute, and you've got Andy on lead drums. So that's the full band.
Excellent. Well, we definitely say hi to all those guys as well. And they're busy working, which is always good. So that means they're in demand. And
Yeah, they're doing covers gigs, a couple of them, which pay actual money, unlike originals prog.
unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a concept album, if I'm correct, and it's got a great storyline. Why don't you guys talk about that, and then we'll jump into the. Well, go ahead and do that first. So
Yeah.
the
So
storyline concept.
sorry, Andy jumped in there. Go
Yeah,
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
only to introduce.
Yeah, storyline or concept. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was only going to introduce Charlie on it because purely all that aspect of the writing the story and the lyrics is pure, all from Charlie Bremel's brain. We wrote a lot of the music, particularly Scissor Games, before Charlie was in the band, so to speak. A lot of that music was already formed and structured and so on. It was Charlie who brought it all to life with what you now know as Scissor Games, with that concept, that storyline, with the abuse and the Puppet King and the amazing to hear it all come to life. And to be honest, I genuinely, not to blow too much smoke up his bum, but how he's done it again for this album, it honestly blows me away. It's because again, there's a lot of time Charlie will just sit and listen, while we're writing and so on, and as the ideas form and we arrange the songs and so on and so forth. And I never think twice, at this point about the lyrics or the storyline or anything like that. I trust, we learn to trust in Charlie that is what he's going to do to it. So we crack on and do that. And then Charlie sits quietly a lot of the time. Occasionally he'll jump up and like bellow some words down the microphone over what we're calling a chorus section or something like that at that time, and then he'll go quiet again and start scribbling, or do you know what I mean? And then but again,
that's a great way to do it. Yeah, he's writing while he's
and so yeah, and at the end it's sort of like it happened again. So we got to the point where we'd start playing through these structured pieces of music, so on, and then you'd say to Charlie, "Have you got anything for this yet?" Like blasé, and he'd just go, "Yeah, I think so." And then
the whole thing,
it's like, and it was like, how do you do that? That's amazing. So, and then these songs just came to life again with this storyline, continuation of the story, very cleverly through his lyrics, which are so, visual and visceral, and all those other adjectives that you want to use. Or it's brilliant. So, with him introduced there, I'll let him carry on with what the story is actually about. So.
Well, thank you, Andy. That's very kind of you. And it was a lot of trust you guys placed in me as a complete newbie to writing original music and lyrics. And it is very cyclical because it does emerge from the music that the guys present me with. There is so much scope for melody in the music that Ghost of the Machine, the core members, write. It's a real dream for a writer, really, to be presented with something with so much scope. So the moods and the initial images emerge from the musical ideas, and then from that seed we'll grow the full story. And I realized fairly early on in the process of the second album, partly because we hadn't finished recording the first album yet when we started work on new songs, that the story of Scissors where Hope vanquishes the Puppet King, the sinister figure that looms over the main song Scissors and the album artwork. Uh, Although he's defeated, uh, slain with a pair of scissors, it's a liberating moment, but it's also a violent one. There would have to be consequences for that, so the story was not complete. I wanted to see where it would go next. And Hope, having been incarcerated for the crime of murder, takes all that pain and the unfairness of it all, the fact that she has to suffer these consequences. She takes all that pain and transforms herself into the Empress of the Light, and she's going to make a new world where no one is going to suffer like she did. But in doing so, in preventing crimes that have never happened, she herself becomes a tyrant, just like the Puppet King that she destroyed. So I thought that was an interesting dichotomy. You know, she went in with purer intentions than her predecessor, but it's out with the old boss. Here comes the new one. It's just the same.
Isn't it awful when that happens? Doesn't that always seem to,
Happens a lot.
Yes. But her facade is more, instantly pleasing. The protagonist in Keepers of the Light lays eyes on her for the first time, and he already swears his oath of love and fealty to her because she is so captivating. But once he realizes the truth, that this empire is in fact an almighty prison, in which people like himself are under constant surveillance. Once he realizes the truth, he knows he has to bring down this empire that's built on false foundations. So I think this time we have concluded the story. The second album finishes what we began with Scissor Games in narrative terms, and I look forward to seeing what the future holds as well. But yeah, I hope people enjoy discovering the story if they want to. Try not to be too overly prescriptive with the lyrics that I write. I like to leave enough room for the listener to find their own meanings in the words if they so wish. I've had conversations with fans of the music who've said, "Oh, I really related to that in this way," and I think that's wonderful if they found their own meaning in it. So I want there to be space for the listener to find their own stories in it as well.
But it also does have a lot of correlation to what's going on in the world too. So, and I think maybe Andy was kind of slightly pointing in that direction because I know we're going through our own situations here, and
Absolutely. But empires must fall.
they
That's
do.
all I'll say to that.
This one absolutely needs to, but not so much the U.S., but the current administration. There's a lot of us that would like to see the end of that very soon, especially our neighbor to the north. They,
Absolutely.
I mean, we have the greatest neighbors that anyone could have, and you're throwing dirt in their face, and and most Americans are like, "What? What happened here?" And you guys are probably the same way. You're like, "What the?"
Yeah, it's disturbing times,
Yeah,
but it certainly won't be forever, and
that's true.
I'm sure it won't stop, people of all walks, artists, musicians, just the general public, saying what they believe in and holding on to the things that we really value.
Well,
So
one thing,
fingers crossed that we'll turn the corner soon.
and yeah, I don't want to talk too much about politics. A lot of people don't like to do that, but just um, I have to say thank you for what you guys are doing, the UK, Europe. You're holding up the shield and you're saying, well, if you're no longer going to do it, we're going to take this on ourselves. And the support for Ukraine is just wonderful. And there's a number of us that feel that it never should have changed. And we're doing everything we can to get things back to the way they were like 3 months ago. It's like the world completely changed in 3 months. But as Charlie said, elections are coming, and we are still a democracy despite what people may want. And we do believe in the rule of law. So we're not done. Don't
I'm sure
count,
it'll prevail.
don't count the U.S. out. There's a lot
No,
of
no, no.
very, very angry about all that's going on. So
You're
just
okay.
yeah. All right. I mean, I could talk about politics all day, but I shouldn't on this show. I'm a political science undergraduate, but no. Um, but definitely there are some sort of, as you mentioned, Charlie, there are some similarities, not just between us, but other places throughout the world. And so, even if you live in the beautiful, harmonious country of Greenland or Norway or Sweden, where everything's wonderful, there are other parts of the world that are going through similar situations. And it's good to have a tale like this, not only put out there in terms of the concept, but then music to it, so that it's not um, that sort of takes the edge off of the reality of it. And
I often write quite, the lyrics I write are often on quite deep or sensitive issues, but I always try and end songs, or certainly the latest album, on a hopeful note,
yes,
because the pendulum will always swing the other way, right? Whatever difficult times you're going through, there is always a solution. There is always that light at the end of the tunnel, however far. So empires must fall may take a little bit longer to get there, but there is a hopeful resolution at the end of it after the war.
yeah, and that's a great song. All right, just one other question here. I think you've already debuted it and had a few shows. Is there a tour plan for it, or go ahead,
Yeah,
festivals?
we've got quite a few live dates throughout this year, of which the main focus will be showing off the new songs from Empires Must Fall. We're playing next weekend. Actually, we're playing at JJ's Prog 60 in Leicester. We'll be alongside Herds, Red Bazaar with the wonderful Peter Jones, unbelievable talent. We've got Stuckfish. I'm sure you like Stuckfish, Professor
Yes.
Mark. They're just an awesome melodic rocking band. Uh, there's Hayes as well, good friends of mine. They've been around for, wow, over 45 years now, and still making great prog. And then we're on the bill as well. So that's going to be a really awesome afternoon and evening of progressive rock.
You're also
Only
doing
week after that,
Prague for Pert, which has a
we are, yes, which is
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's
Go. I'm going to let you talk because sometimes I jump in too early.
no, that's a really exciting one. We've been wanting to
Yeah.
do do prog for Pit for a long time. Not only is it a great weekend of music, proceeds from the festival are also donated to brain cancer research. So
There's a good theme.
it's a great event for great causes. Really looking forward to that. Um, a really good friend of mine from the prog community was just diagnosed with a brain tumor as well. So I'll be thinking of him when we do that
Sorry.
this year. And anything we can do to fight this awful disease, whether it's fundraising through, through athletic efforts or something like that. Well, I can't do that. Look at me. But we can certainly go and make a racket for a good cause. So really pleased to be on the bill this year.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that one. And there's a few other firsts for us this year. We'll be going to London for the very first time with our friends, your friends, Hats Off Gentlemen, It's Adequate.
Yes.
They're showing off their new album, The Uncertainty Principle, and we're showing off our new album. So it's a great double bill. We're going to Glasgow for the very first time with Long Earth. They've kindly invited us there to play with them. And we're going to Southampton to face off against our arch nemesis, Sprig and Mist. We'll destroy them once and for all, hopefully. And we'll be playing with the awesome Ebb later in the year as well, in Nuneaton, another place we've not been before. So going to all these new places, we'll meet lots of new people. We'll get to play our new album for them, and we're really looking forward to it.
And will you do the entire album from beginning to end or highlights?
Well, it might change during the year. I mean, we just played it live in Sheffield for the album launch from beginning
Yeah.
to end in order. And I don't know about you, Andy, but I felt like it worked quite well. So I'm looking forward to doing that again soon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of the time with prog, certainly the way we do prog, is if your songs are too long for the relatively short time slots you get, at our level, that can be quite, I say, problematic. But I think we did a couple of events last year, weren't there, Charlie, where we ended up playing 3 songs,
Literally,
or
yeah.
yeah, the first song's 17 and a half minutes long, and then 15 minutes, and then you had and
Oh, you're
suddenly you
done.
go, so
Right. Yeah.
we didn't even need to print a set list for those. It was.
Yeah.
But so that has to be taken into consideration. But I think with this album, it is quite playable because, I mean, I guess they are still long songs. I'd be lying if they're not. But there is that mix, as you've already aforementioned, of a couple of short songs, three or four longer songs, but they're not as long as they could be.
Yeah.
And so we can probably get away in the time slot of playing pretty much all the album or the whole album, which I think needs to be done, really. I mean, that's what we're going to do.
So the audience really enjoyed that when you did the whole album. You had
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was like thank you for previewing it, or you probably had it for sale or not yet.
we did have it for sale that night, but it was a few days before the general release.
Okay.
So the people in the room, apart from the 2 singles, they hadn't heard this before in a lot at all in most cases. There were a couple of reviewers and radio people there, but the general audience were experiencing it for the very first time and live. So you don't always know how that's going to go down.
And how did it go?
But
Yeah, very well.
Very well received.
yeah, the energy from the room was fantastic from the very first notes, really, and right through to the end. Really pleased with the
That's
reception.
got to
And
be absolutely satisfying. You put all this effort into something and you're like, I hope they like it. And then boom, they come back and scream at you. Yeah, we love it.
oh,
That's
they
got to
did do
feel
that,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, we,
we're getting. Sorry, Charlie, go on.
I was going to say, we write for ourselves first and foremost, don't we? We we make sure we like it. We're happy with it, but there's always that part of you that wants it to survive contact with the general public and for them to like it as well.
Yeah.
Be lying if I said otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, why release it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was originally quite concerned when we were writing Keepers of the Light, what became Keepers of the Light, because it was quite different sounding to what we'd previously put out. And although we were chasing this off our own, in our own making, this sort of heavier, darker sound, I was still quite concerned that would anybody like it, particularly because Charlie was adamant it was going to be the first song on the album. So, anybody who didn't really know Scissor Games, perhaps, or even did, and then first song of the new album, and there's this noise that comes on, and you just think, because it's not everybody's cup of tea, granted, prog fans, but you know what I mean, it's in odd time signatures, and it's quite an angular, grating riff first off. So I put a lot of work into that song, particularly at first, just trying to make it feel good, even though it was in quite a few odd time signatures. And that, because we mentioned Neil Peart, for the Prog for Peart thing, that was something I've nicked off him years ago, in terms of how to make, odd time signatures groove, which is to play offbeat hi-hat cymbal patterns, or, over the top of it, which smooths it out. It takes the audience's ear away from the odd time signature and makes them feel like it's more danceable to, particularly, or groovable to, or swaying along to. And I think actually we achieved it in the end. I think we've heard people say, "Oh, what a great what a great first song. It really, really grooves, and it really, what a great song to have a jig to, or like really get into. And I was thinking that's incredible because it's in 7, and a lot of it's in 6, and it's like but it's so I think we achieved that. But I was quite concerned about it at first. But, so yeah, so in terms of how it was received, I was very relieved after the first song. It went down well. Yeah.
And I, taking that Rush comparison a little further, the keyboards, there's that layer of cascading keyboards
It's
that
like Tom Sawyer, isn't it?
it took me right back to, I don't know if you remember moving pictures, the camera eye.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this is excellent. I mean, it just, no, you're not copying them or anything like that, but it just has that reminder in it. And thank you for that. I mean, it was just,
Mark very
you guys know
consciously,
what we're talking about?
yeah, man. Mark Hagan very consciously brought a very different sonic palette, aside from the piano, which is all over the album as well. But in terms of the synth sounds that he brought, they're very different from what was used on Scissor Games. So you hear a bit more, things that evoke Genesis, or things that, as you say, evoke Rush. I hear a sort of Tom Sawyer-esque swell on Keepers of the Light going into the choruses, for example. And it's never pastiche. It never wants to be pastiche. It's taking those influences and those little bits of ear candy and turning them into something fresh, which comes through in sort of the attention to detail we put into the writing, I hope, and also the production that Bob Cooper gave this record, which gave, I think, every band member their moments to shine in the mix.
Which is important. That's how you
Very important, yeah.
together. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if anyone's excluded, there's going to be infighting. Yeah.
Especially with it being so dense as well, and you've got two guitarists who luckily do quite different things from one another. You've got Scott, who he's a chunkier player, and Graham sits at the top of that with cleaner melodies usually. But then you've also got quite a busy bass player in Stuart. Keyboards tend to occupy the whole range of frequencies, don't they? So it's a difficult job for any engineer, and I think Bob's done well with that.
And I also hear a little bit of Yes and Palace, which you can't go wrong with either of those sounds. And yeah, just a great, and whether or not you agreed with him, Andy, I think he picked the right song to open this thing, because it really did. It, like you said, it gave that different sound, which you're right. You have those fears as a band. How are people going to receive this? But I'm glad to hear that they do like it, and it kind of, me as a reviewer, I was like, yeah, this really sounds good. It sounds different, and that's a good thing. That's you don't want to. Sometimes I say, they should sort of pick up from the last song on the last album. Nah, start new.
Yeah. But narratively, it does pick up exactly from the last song on the last album, but it's in a new place. There's been a bit of a time jump. We're in a completely different realm. And Keepers of the Light for me felt like the right kind of sonic build-up till you get to that wonderful earworm synth line that Mark had written. And in terms of the ebb and flow of the story as well, which we were crafting around these songs, it just felt like it really belonged there right at the start. So in my head, it was the beginning of the album for a very long time.
Andy, anything else you want to say about that one?
Only, I think I'm beginning to think anyway. The more and more I play them and listen to them, these songs, I think "Keepers of the Light" is my favourite song on the album. I do. I mean, I know a lot of people are saying a lot of different things because everybody's different. That's great, about the more epic songs on the album, later on. So the longer songs, the bigger songs, so to speak. But I think in achievement-wise of what I certainly tried to put into this album, which was a lot more, a bit more proggy. I mean, I genuinely tried hard on this album to be more proggy. You know, I thought the band needed to go in a more proggy direction, and I think Charlie would agree. I was quite paramount in that decision making, in the arrangements and the parts.
Yeah.
I was quite clear with myself that it needed to be heavier, or it needed to be more rocky, or it needed to be more proggy, because we're in a prog band genre, and I do think personally some of Scissor Games isn't proggy enough. Do you know what I mean? It's lovely stuff. Yeah. You know, it's really good stuff. But if I really thought hard about it, it's like, well, why are we called a prog band? I mean, they're just long melodic rock songs. You know what I mean? It's like prog in there. You know, so and certainly the bands I'm into, you know, Dream Theater, and which is you know, Muse, etc., etc. They're as proggy as I get. So I just thought, you know, let's use some of those influences, my thing, and try and put that into it a bit. So I think we achieved it. I think all the way through we did go a bit more proggy.
Yeah, you wouldn't let us settle for the easy way through a song, which was really important in this writing process. As I say, we were already writing this back end of 2021, right? Before Scissor Games had finished recording and releasing. So we spent a long time on these 6 songs. Well, it was 5 for the longest time, actually, but we'll come to that. But that allowed us to get very editorial and to really polish them. And as I say, I think Andy not settling for the easy option and making sure that we did show that evolution and development as a band. I think it was instrumental in getting these songs into the kind of shape that you hear on the finished product.
So yeah, so Keepers in to sum up, I think encapsulates or illustrates everything I personally was trying to put into this record. You know,
nailed it.
Yeah,
started out perfectly. All right, and then The Days That Never Were. Some far off keys at the beginning, wonderful bass, electric guitar, and then the pace picks up. Talk a little bit about that one. And Charlie's voice he's already emotional on the first song, but very emotional on this one, talking about the Queen and that whole situation. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, your connection's a little unstable there, Mark, but I think we caught enough of that to answer the questions.
I think, well, this song started off very much from memory, in sections. Very much, we started writing different sections of them that weren't necessarily going to be together as a song, you know, but ended up being together as a song. I particularly remember the verse, what is now the verse, sorry. The chords of that, Graham came up with those chords against the piano part. And I remember saying again, I said, "Oh, I can just hear that in 7. I can really hear that in 7." You know, and they were like, "Can you?" I was like, "Yeah, no, just try it. And we did, and that's how the verse came together. Stretto and Charlie again weaved his vocal magic over the top of that.
It was actually easy to do it in 7 for that part.
Yeah, it sounded right in 7.
It did, yeah.
Then, the intro had already been written. You know, that intro sort of section, and then the midsection. Mark came up with the midsection piano, and then that built, and then that became that. Yeah, it came together in sections, and then we glued it all together. Really, there was times, wasn't there, Charlie, where we didn't believe that would actually cohese.
You and I were the biggest opponents of this song.
Yeah, we were like, this ain't working.
I'm glad the other guys showed the faith in it, because I really wasn't convinced for a long time. And then one day it just locked in, and we played through it, and we're like, hang on, no, this is a great song. Well, I was enjoying playing it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Bob Cooper was, remember, because we did the Ghost mix or rough track mix for him to have a listen to. And so on and so forth. Hang on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we demoed the album in February last year, and we sent it to Bob, and that was his favourite track, The Days That Never Were.
Yeah.
when you and I were still on the fence about it.
Yeah. So Bob was one of the people who said, "This is." I think my favourite is Days That Never Were, and I was like, "Really? And why is that?"
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, but I think that made us think a bit more, didn't it, Charlie? Like, oh, right.
It did.
Give it another chance, sort of thing. So,
And I think I had the earlier version of the chorus in my head, which was, not maybe not to my taste. It
yeah.
did sound completely different at one point, but
Sure.
it took me a while to shake off. So this was probably the hardest song
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
to see through to the end, even though it's one of the shortest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. It was.
We write the long epics quite easily by comparison. But then it gave a lot of space for the narrative of the album. This is where we learn probably the most about the Empress and her motivations for creating this new empire. Her first decree: no one else will suffer like me, she says, and that underpins all of the actions that she undertook in this story. So it's a very important song in the album, and it's helpful that it's a bit of a fist pumping sing along banger when we play it live.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. And well, they couldn't during that first show because a lot of them didn't know the lyrics yet. But do you get that now? Now that you've played it a little bit, and now that people have had a chance to listen to it, do you ever hear them singing the lyrics back to you? I'm sure from Scissorhands or Scissor that from that album, you definitely.
Yeah.
But how about from this album?
Yeah, there were already people at the album launch singing along to The One and Panopticon, which I always find that amazing. How on earth have you memorized something like Panopticon to sing along to? But something like The Days That Never Were comes at a really good point in the album's structure. It's a good second track to my ear, and it proved the same in the live setting when we've tried it.
All right, let's talk about Panopticon. I immediately, well, yeah, definitely. When I saw that, I don't know if you guys realized it, but Peter Gabriel on his last album from last year wrote a song Panopticon, and this.
I'll correct you there. It's a different word.
Oh, maybe you might.
Peter Gabriel's is Panopticon with an M, a letter M,
Oh, okay.
and ours is Panopticon.
Okay.
So ours is based on the
same.
prison conceived by Jeremy Bentham, in which all of the cells are inward facing toward a watchtower where the prisoners can be watched at any time. So you don't know if you're being observed.
Yeah.
Which I thought was sort of an interesting parallel with the world we live in, where we don't always know if we're
And
being
not to say you
under
copied them
surveillance.
or anything like that.
No, it's just a strange
but
coincidence.
it was just, was that at all any kind of influence, or this is something you just said we need to talk about this because of the whole story? And
Yeah, the title and the lyric just comes from what the story needed to achieve. We needed to expose that the empire was not this paradise that it seemed to be. It was in fact an almighty prison, and the concept of the panopticon with an N fascinated me. I think we'd started writing this one early 2022 from memory. Peter Gabriel's song came out in 2023.
yeah, so
I had a little moment of because
when
of
you
the
saw when
similarity
you
in the
heard his,
titles. Sorry?
a little bit of when you heard his, you mean, or
Yeah. Well, when I saw the title, I thought, oh, that's a pain, but they're different songs, different words,
yeah,
completely different meanings. So we knew that people would mention it as you just have, but sometimes the song is just the song. I think we made the right decision not to change it just because another song came out with a similar title. Yeah. So not worried about that at all.
Andy, it's a great song, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Panopticon, yeah. Just a very natural progression was that song. Yeah, I can't remember that being problematic at all as a creative process. It just sort of flowed out. All those instrumental sections just progressed together, if you know what I mean, very naturally, very organically.
And
I
I
love
think
your
this
drum.
is probably one of my favorites. Yeah, just the whole especially the Hammond organ type song took me back to I'm a old guy nursery crime that era,
Yeah,
and it was like God, that was great to hear that again.
made me think a little bit of The Knife from Trespass when I
Yeah,
first
a little
heard it.
bit like that. Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's a good comparison.
think we ended up going in quite a few different directions with the song, but it does
Mm.
evoke that we knew the classic prog fans would like it. Um, what I like about it is how unrelenting it is once it gets going after that first couple
Oh
of
yeah.
minutes. It's a false sense of security, I suppose, from the ambient uh, instrumental intro, and then it wallops you
It
from
does.
that point onwards, right up to the final chorus, really. But it was Andy's drum part that helped me write the chorus, refrain, and indeed the words that would become the title of the album. Yeah, prepare yourself, prepare yourself. This empire must fall. Empires must fall. It all came from the drum parts. So it built up to this real call to action.
Mm.
And I
And
mentioned the Hammond sound, but yeah, you're right. The drums are just really powerful on this song. And
yeah, I was, I'd said to myself I wanted to put a continuation of the rhythmic structure in the middle of Scissors, that sort of syncopated pattern. I wanted to continue that somewhere on the album because it was a continuation. And then it just came about that Panopticon, as those parts evolved, had the space for a rhythm like that, for ideas for me to explore like that in the middle of it. And so I did something that was, I say reminiscent of it. It was certainly structured around it, but with a lot more. It was a lot more percussive, so to speak, and I mean that in terms of the word percussive, in terms of describing, a bit more powerful, because obviously it's all percussive. But do you know what I mean? So it was just a bit more harder hitting, although still melodic. During that whole midsection, and it builds and builds and builds and builds towards the latter instrumental section before the last chorus again. But yeah, so I managed to get that in there. That was a design of mine, and I secretly wanted that in and selfishly put it in, and I don't care what anybody says. I put it in. So, but it luckily worked. With that song. So all
who's
worked out.
one of your favorite drummers?
I've got so many, Professor Mark. This is the problem, but certainly in my drumming career or life, Neil Peart has been a huge influence. Mike Portnoy, another huge influence. There's so many though, because I actually came from a background of more of the LA rock scene. So Aerosmith, like Motley Crue, all those guys. Originally, that's what got me into music in the first
Well,
place.
for me, it was John Bonham, and he's passed. So I think
Yeah.
right now, Tony Carey, I think that's his first name from Tool, is just
Oh,
one of
Johnny Carey.
the explosive
Yeah.
drummers I've ever heard since
Yeah.
John Bonham.
Yeah.
And the last album just, I mean, the rest of the album is fantastic, but those drums just really stand out. And when you see some of their live presentations,
Mm.
it's almost like his show. You really
Yeah,
feel it.
yeah, he's a major creative force in that band. There's no doubt. And I try and be the same, just not as good as Danny Carey.
Okay.
Well, I
Yeah.
love you, Andy.
Yeah, but say we're developing. We're still as a band. This is early days for our band. I
It
mean,
is, yeah.
Tool have been at that a long time,
Yeah, they have.
and I think when you hear songs like Numa from Tool. I mean, they self-confess. I mean, that was about 72 years in the making, that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was
it's a long time.
you know, they've written it and they've just added to it and honed it and pulled it and pushed it and explored, and that's what's come out of it after a long time. You know, and that's sort of what I think every band does, but you often not haven't often got that time to do it. But so I say, early days for us. We'll see what we can do next.
Oh yeah. All right, Fall Through Time. And anything else you guys wanted to add to the last song?
No, just a shout out to the Drain Hope graphics music video that we put out for that. I think the guys were a little bit taken aback when we said the second song from the album that's going to be released before the album's out is Panopticon. I think we didn't expect to release a 12-minute single, but I think it ended up being quite exciting, and we did manage to win Prog's Tracks of the Week's poll with that as well. And I think the video was a big part of telling the story that we wanted to as well. So really enjoyed putting that song together and sharing it with the world.
Excellent. Congratulations. Definitely.
Thank you.
All right. Fall Through Time. This is another great, maybe more guitar driven, but also there's a lot of great keyboards and excellent drumming. What do you guys want to say about that one? It's an excellent. Well, they're all excellent, but it's another good song.
This was the one that worked best for me at the album launch show. I think we managed to really capture the room with the atmosphere right from the first notes on the 6-string bass that Stuart's playing at the beginning before the synths start hammering in. It really creates an atmosphere, and it's another of those epic tracks that we're kind of known for. I just love the midsection in this song, the different grooves that it goes through. It's arguably the most danceable track on the album for me. Certainly in the middle part.
Dance to Prague, yeah.
We won't get into all that, but yeah, it grooves like heck, doesn't it?
Yeah, there are some.
And then to close with that sort of titanic guitar solo of Graham's, which he just improvised in the moment in the studio. The first time we got the mixes back from Bob, that was my first time hearing it, and the hairs on my arms were standing up. It just blew me away. All that build up to that moment really paid off. But you're not done yet, because the guitar solo finishes and the synths and the drums come back in to take us into a fade out. So it's a really exciting arrangement, and one of my favorite tracks on the album, certainly.
Andy?
Yeah. I think this was Mark's baby a lot, this one, the keyboard player, Mark. Because although he does provide certainly a lot of the original, melodic ideas off the bat in all the songs. He's very creative. He comes up with lots of ideas, of which him and Graham sculpt very quickly and easily, melodically and stuff like that. And then we all start pulling it apart and jumping in on it and stuff like that. But out of all the songs, I think, in my opinion, I think that Mark really had his personality all over this one. He came up with pretty much every major aspect of this song. Hence why it is a bit different for us again. It does sound quite poppy in places, and it's all very synth driven and sequencer type driven. And then just the midsection, just it lent itself to that different feel. I was thinking, that's my Stuart Copeland aspect of the album. Sort of went a bit pop record through it. And so on, but it just seemed to lend itself very well. 4 on the floor rhythm, pound it straight through, all the way through that section. Try not to break it, just let it drive all the way through. It goes a bit half time, goes a bit off, but that bass drum sticks all the way through on 4. Yeah, and then builds up nicely to a half-time section at the end, which knocks your socks off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think very much Mark's baby, that song. But
Charlie,
I would say.
anything else?
I mean, well, I suppose we're not really, obviously I'm talking very much from my personal point of view here. Not giving really any credit to Scott or Stuart or Graham, really. Who, I mean, all the input from the musicians on this album, particularly, I think is superb. Honestly, I do, and I'm not blowing our own trumpets like that. It's just I'm a genuine fan of this, of what we've put together here. I think everybody has come up with some really good, really good parts and melodies and executed them very well.
Yeah, I thought Stuart's, that I already mentioned it, but the 6-string bass part that brings in the song was such an inspired move around that the staccato synth. And Stuart is quite a busy, he's instinctively a busy bass player, isn't he? And
well, he's actually instinctively a guitarist, isn't he? But
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Wants to play the bass as a guitar, so he's quite frustrated a lot of the time because I stamp all over him or, and say, "No, come on, be a bass player, not a guitarist."
Well, it's the Chris Squire influence.
Yeah, he does. He loves
playing that way. Yeah,
loves playing up the top end of his fretboard, which a lot of the time leaves me in the mist at the bottom, just going, "What? It's just me on my own." But he then, channels all that back down. I mean, it's again when you hear the mixes, when we first heard the mixes coming back, because I can't hear a lot when I'm drumming anyway of the other, the nuances. It's just a wall of noise, so to speak, mainly of my own doing, but from the other instruments as well. So to hear those mixes originally coming back, I mean, it's like Stuart's bass parts are incredible. Honestly, they're very musical, incredibly musical. Yeah. So everybody deserves accolade on this album. As far as I'm concerned, it's we've done. They, we, me, you, everyone has done really well on it.
Yeah, Scotty really stepped up. Yeah, on this album. In the writing and his sort of moments on the album as well. I think he I don't think he'd mind me saying that he wasn't the most confident at putting his ideas forward, but after after Scissor Games, after doing the Shadows of Mercury EP, I think he brought a lot more confidence and ideas into the writing on Empires. You hear more solos from him on this album, which give it more variety in the guitar sounds and the style of playing.
He's also got a commerciality, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He's playing the Scott and his sound.
Well, he loves Steve Lukather and Neil Schon, Toto and Journey, so he brings that sort of crossover appeal into what he plays as well. Yeah, so I think it really, really shines through again. It gives it that hook, that melody sort of rock thing coming on. I suppose speaking of hooks, the next track on the album and the first single, that was a Scott, Mel. Yeah, that's a Scott special riff, isn't it? It's a great hook. The chorus chords as well. I think sort of a Mark and Scott effort.
This one's definitely, I think, your highlight for you, because of the lyrical and vocal and that's not the word I'm looking for, but the amount of lyrics involved with it, telling the whole story. It's just,
the one's a very simple refrain. It came together really quickly. The one. I got the demo from Scott while I was on the train, coming back to Sheffield where I live, and sort of between Rotherham and Sheffield, which is only 10, maybe 15 minutes on the train. I'd already written a verse and a chorus because I was so excited by the idea in front of me. Coming back to what we said earlier about how much scope there is for melody in these songs, with what I'm presented with, just ran with it. The band ran with this song, and it was the missing piece. It was the song that that had eluded us. We'd had 5 songs for a long time. We demoed the album and it didn't feel quite right. We knew we needed a shorter song to break up the big epics, Fall Through Time and After the War. And then this idea materialized. As I say, my chorus refrain on it is very straightforward. Yeah, I can be the one you love to hate. You know, it's it's one of those lines that you're really pleased when you drop on it because it's so simple, but it's quite universal. It doesn't just belong in the story of empires must fall, the conflict between the prisoner and the empress. I think a lot of people will find something to enjoy in that phrase from their own experiences. Lucky to get that piece of music and find the right line for it.
Yeah,
you did. You absolutely did.
Yeah, it was from our mind again. We had the 5 songs for a long time. We knew it possibly needed another one or a missing piece of a puzzle sort of thing. And but we were also quite single-minded, to use a phrase. We needed a single, and so we were quite focused on when Scott came up with that idea of, well, this needs to be the single because we haven't got one really as yet. So let's make it a single. So we actually went down that road of making it quite short for one, for one. See what I mean?
Well, yeah,
it gets worse. It gets worse.
I guess we'll
do continue.
But yeah, we really tried hard to make it not proggy, not keep, because those ideas, you keep saying, oh, we could do this, oh, let's do this with it, and suddenly you're on 9 minutes, 11 minutes, and we tried hard not to do that. We just wanted simple structure: verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus, end, which is what we ended up with. Is what we tried to make the chords all major, and we tried to make the hook work so Charlie could come up with a really strong melodic hook, which he has done. So it all just fell together really quickly because we were using those more simplistic tools of the melodic A B A B A B A, whatever structure of songwriting, like more pop songwriting than proggy rock writing. But very pleased with the result, really, I thought.
There was one group member who didn't think that the chorus sounded like a chorus, but I'm glad we managed to rein that in and stick with what we had. I think it really works as it is, and it was the obvious candidate to release as the first song, and we released it on New Year's Day, 1st of January. So the marketing wrote itself, and beautifully we had a clear field, because who on earth releases something on New Year's Day? We do, just us.
Yeah. And
so we managed to sort of completely take over Facebook for a day, and everyone was sharing our new video, and it did exactly what we wanted it to do. It kicked off our pre-order campaign for the new CD. We got more eyes and ears on the YouTube channel than we'd ever had before. It's still going quite strong. More people going to our Spotify. We've got more listeners than ever. So I think the sort of calculated campaign that we came up with was quite fortunate.
And there's nothing wrong with being the first one out at the beginning of the year. I think
it's a busy year. You're going to have to work really hard to get heard. You got new releases, Stephen Wilson, Jethro Tull.
Yeah, how did you know that? I mean, that is because it absolutely has been, and we're not even into April, and you've got, I think, some of the best albums of the year, including yours, already out there. And we still have the summer, the fall, and pre-winter.
And you want to be in the conversation.
Right. 25.
You want to be in the mix.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
How did you know 25? I had no idea that it was going to be this explosive, but I'm happy. I'm absolutely happy it has been. But
you hear rumblings.
Oh, I'm sorry. You probably looked like I did what was going to be released, but I didn't know Jethro Tull. I didn't know some of these things. They weren't mentioned on the list that I looked at. And so I thought, well, it's going to be a slow start, but
Nope.
no way.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, so,
and next week we have Envy of None, which I'm dying to hear. Um, and then it's just going to keep building from there. But go ahead.
yeah.
How did you know or assume that it was going to be such a big year?
Well, some of these bands were just due a new album, right? IQ's is
Okay.
officially out next week.
Yeah, that's another one.
That's been a long time in the making. Stephen Wilson's always got something on the boil. He's just released his last week.
John
We
Hackett,
knew. Sorry,
the John Hackett band.
I think they're working on something, yeah, or
No, they're
that's imminent.
releasing. I think it's in April. Yeah,
They're releasing. You got Solstice as well in April. They're our
Solstice.
label mates Clan. That's eagerly anticipated. They were just voted the best band by Prog Magazine's readers, weren't they? So that's a big release. Yeah, it's crowded. It's crowded market, as I say. Then
Hey,
other newer
since
bands like Tribe 3 that's just come out. That's a fantastic record. I'd recommend it to anyone.
I haven't heard that one
Um,
yet, I want to
all
hear
that's
it.
to say, all that's all that's to say is we want to make as much noise possible because we've got a new record as well, and we want people to hear it, and we don't want to be sort of lost in the mix or fall out of the conversation just because all this new stuff's coming out. Um, people only have a finite amount of money. They can't buy every release, and they don't have
There you are.
time to listen to everything. And we think our record's one that's worth, coming back to and revisiting and discovering all the little details. So yeah, I really hope that we can stay in that conversation right through the year. And it does help that we're one of those bands that does get to go out live and play to audiences as well. It helps keep you visible amongst all that racket from some of the big boys.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
want we want to be there as well.
since you mentioned Solstice, when she won the award, I think, or second place, I can't remember exactly, but any chance of the two of you getting together to do a duet or something? Because that really would be.
Oh, Jess
Well, this
Holland.
is this is off the cuff, and um, any possibilities? Because that really would be a great song.
Oh
Without
man,
even hearing it, I just have a sense it'd be a great song. Both of them.
I've no idea what the future holds. I love Solstice. I'm going to go see them on their tour next month and just enjoy that amazing sound that they make. It's they've got this T-shirt. Um, they printed a bunch of T-shirts from negative comments that they'd received on
No
Facebook or
kidding.
something. So you can buy a T-shirt that says "discordant female wailing." They've got 4 or 5 female singers
Oh,
on stage at any one time. Discordant. They sound absolutely wonderful, and they're
they
just such a
really do.
joyous band. So, as I say, you never know what the future holds, but for now, I'll just enjoy seeing them continue to shine because they're just a joy. They're just a joy to have on the scene, and
Yeah.
to be on the same label as them as well is super cool.
Andy, anything you want to say or?
No, that's purely Charlie territory, is all
Well,
that.
yeah, definitely. It is one heck of a year we're living in here, musically.
Yeah,
So enjoy it. Yeah, absolutely pick up all of this. But we got one more to talk about, and to me, it's probably the best and the biggest song. And this time they went full prog, 14 minutes, over 14 minutes after the war. So what happens after all this, the issues that have been, brewing and stewing throughout the album and the concept. Now we get to the final, and you guys really kick this one even higher. So let's talk about that one. It's a great song.
yeah. Came from what sounded like it was just going to be a piano vocal. Uh, the initial sort of 3-4 minutes was one of Mark's classic piano pieces that was really easy to find a nice melody over. But what I didn't expect was that it was going to just keep growing and growing and growing into the behemoth that it is.
The monster,
As you say,
yeah.
it's a titanic 14 minutes. Certainly the longest song on the album. Not quite our longest song overall. That's still Scissors. but it's got all the ingredients, I think, of a Ghost of the Machine track.
Yeah.
It goes through all those different moods and emotions and feels and grooves, and there's dark and light, and it's the perfect climax, I think, to this story that we were trying to tell on this album. You know, you have the realization in Panopticon of what this empire really is, the conflict in Fall Through Time, and the ramifications of that in The One. But this is the aftermath. This is all the fighting is over. The empire is lying in ruins. What happens now? And it takes us to this kind of, I think it's quite a beautiful moment of forgiveness, you know, holding out a hand and saying, run away with me, you know, processing everything that's done. Perhaps she doesn't deserve the forgiveness for what she's done in her role as the Empress, but it's probably what she needs, this healing act of forgiveness. So I really enjoyed the scope that this piece of music gave for storytelling. I also just enjoyed listening to the guys at work. It's something to behold.
Andy?
Got
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna
Well, what?
go for it, man.
Yeah, it is. Again, I mean, listening to Charlie talk about our songs is very different from the way I see them, or I feel that they evolve or organically happen. It is remarkable. I'll say it again. We're looking at them. If you look at it backwards now, Charlie talking about them, it's in the finished, you know, structural epic that it is, with how lyrically emotive it is, and the storytelling is superb in this last song. It really is. I think he excelled himself all through it, but this song, yeah, it's like wow. And again, it blows me away, because, you know, as we're writing them and doing the creation process and stuff, it doesn't feel like, you know, it will end up. Well, I certainly have no vision of how it's going to end up. It's just an ongoing thing. Well, let's try this here, and this would suit this here, and it grows, and it's, you know, and the building blocks go on and all the rest of it. And then in the sculpting process, it all gets honed back again, and bits get chopped off and all that. And, you know, and then suddenly, again, Charlie finishes all these finishing touches, and you end up with The One. I mean, After the War or something. It's like, what? So it's like, so it is, you know, I'm as a bigger fan of this song as anybody, I think, and of the album. But I think he's done a remarkable job in bringing it to life. The music, you know, is you know, how we do it and create it and all the rest. But I say it's Charlie who brings it all to life. I think it's
a team effort. I mean, as I say, the piano vocal bit that opened it up, you know, that was sort of what I expected it to be. But everything that followed from the instrumental, which you really helped flesh out, didn't you? Because that was just a brief interlude at one stage, and then it became this galloping, exciting thing that pushes and pulls and brings us into the brighter middle. And the groove that you've got with the hi-hat going on with Stuart's bass line in the midsection. Again, it's very danceable, isn't it? I'm strutting around on the stage when we play it live, just because it feels so good. You know, as well as doing my job of singing the words, I just want to enjoy what's been created here. It's so enjoyable. And you've got Graham solos, you've got Scotty solos, you've got synth leads, that bass line that I mentioned. Quite a workout on the drums, especially in the instrumental passage, which is my father's favorite part of the album, by the way. Yeah, the bit with no vocals. That's my dad's favorite bit.
Yeah, come on.
He loves it. He's a big fan.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm struggling to put it into words, really. It's just, yeah, I think as an end track, it's brilliant as far as I'm concerned. I think it's the story that makes it so good, and I say those so lyrically emotive. I think it's great. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
his voice, I'm telling you,
yeah.
yeah. He reminds me a little bit of now I can't remember his last name, but Mark from Sylvan. Uh, he really
Oh man,
knows how to bring out the emotions, and
Yeah.
Marco Gluman. You know who I'm talking about, Charlie?
I do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember his name either.
Marco
That's
Gluman.
terrible. Yeah, it
Marco
is.
Gluman. Yeah, if you listen to Marco Gluman sing some of his songs, it's like you're in there crying with him. I mean, and Charlie's getting there, and he's very, very close. And on a lot of songs, he's there already. So yeah, absolutely.
I still feel like I've got, a lot of room to learn and grow. These are still early efforts for me as a singer. And it just happens that I've been given, opportunities to work, with the Ghost of the Machine guys that have given me a great platform to develop those skills. And they've always given me a lot of good guidance, helped me when things aren't working. Um, so as a newcomer to the scene, it's been really exciting and rewarding. I still feel like the
Um,
new boy.
if you get the chance, it's a tough album to listen to, but Posthumous Silence. That I mean, anyone that's trying to be emotive should listen to that album. That is for me kind of the template. And if you know what the story's about, which is father finds out his daughter took her own life, um,
Oh,
and then and I'm not, I really don't know if it's a real story, but I mean, if you listen to it, you'll uh, yeah, you can't sit
man, yeah.
there and not get involved with that one. But there's a good one to just listen to. But you got to be in the right mood for it. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds heavy, but a
it's
rewarding
very
listen, I'm
heavy. Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Um, but I think you have that ability, and you will probably find you don't have to cover that same storyline, but a lot of this you bring that same feeling, because it's no one likes living under a dictatorship or living in a
Yeah.
kingdom where you're put in prison and
No, I mean,
for
fortunately, I've never had to go through with that.
well, thank you. Yeah,
I don't write from an autobiographical perspective. I
right.
don't think I ever have. But you do try and find the emotional threads of the characters that you're writing from
Yeah,
the perspective of. I do have a sort of a theatrical background. I think we've talked about that before. Before I got into music at all, I was acting in a lot of plays, doing sort of Shakespeare and original writing. Um, then I was fortunate enough to find that I enjoyed doing music even more, and then
yeah,
was even luckier still to end up in a band that A is a great bunch of guys and we gel really well together, but uh, B makes the kind of music that I always dreamed of in a subconscious way. I never imagined myself doing this, but part of me must have always wanted to because it's the most exciting thing in the world.
and the fact that they, as Andy said, let you sort of have that free reign of creative and writing the lyrics and we
Yeah, what were
trust
they thinking?
and yeah, and we trust it to hear that from him. We trust him. We know he's going to come up with something good. That it's got to feel good, and it's got to sound good to hear that.
Yeah, it's just a great team effort. I think when we make these records, love the experience of making both Sis games and Empires Must Fall, and look forward to whatever we may do next.
Well, let's talk about that. Unless Andy, do you have anything else you wanted to mention about um, this after the war or the album itself? Or
No, I'll sum up by saying I do believe in a non-arrogant way, that we've created I think a better album or better songs, but purely from from a progressive point of view. I do believe we're growing as a band. I do believe we are growing as in working together, how we work together, and I think this is a good album. We've put our heart and soul into it, and I believe it will do good things. In the prog world, I think it will shake some trees.
Yeah, the response so far has been great. So it's really pleasing to see that hard work paying off.
Yeah.
And
people like it.
Like you said, you're in a very competitive year, and you're holding your own, and that's great.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I mean, have the words which have already been bandied around quite often already about potential top 10 best album of the year already for 2025 is remarkable. Could never have dreamed that would happen from those early days of feeling awkward about Keepers of the Light. Or
Yeah.
It's just a lovely feeling. It's lovely. Long may it continue.
Well, let's talk about. Are you already working on album 3, and how much do you want to reveal, or hopefully some, but
not too much, because it's early days in that process, and can't really tell you where it's going yet.
But another concept album, or
don't know. It's a completely blank slate. So the story that started with Scissors is finished.
Yeah.
Which is exciting for me and also terrifying because it's a completely blank page. Musically, there's quite a few ideas floating around. The main focus at the moment is touring and promoting Empires Must Fall. So any writing that happens in the meantime is a bonus. We did have a nice period with no shows and a gap before the release date where we were able to work on things and set the ball rolling. But the focus is elsewhere for the moment. But
sure.
Rest assured, we're not quite done yet.
And you've got a great album here. You definitely want to unleash it on the world.
I think it's easy to think. All right, it's out now. Let's work on the next one. But no, I think the time that we're spending in the rehearsal studio, getting these performances as polished as they can possibly be, that's what we need to be doing right now, and it's exactly what we're doing. I'm really looking forward to these live shows.
Yeah, these songs need constant performing. I mean, it's all right. I've learned, or I've found that it's all right going through the motions by yourself, sitting and practicing it by yourself, the physicality of the motion and so on, all the rest of it. But it's about playing it with the 5 other guys. That changes, as every musician will tell you, it changes the nuance of and the feel of everything. So these songs particularly, because they are a bit more technical in places and so on than the last album and so on, they need to be played pretty consistently and constantly, because I reckon 3 or 4 weeks away from that, and I think the band would start sounding rusty, a little bit, or you'd be out of your comfort zone playing most of it, so it's our primary focus, as Charlie says, just keeping on top of that and making sure that we can play them live to the best of our abilities and promote it well, and get the word out there.
Anything else? All right. Well, I'll just open it up, and anything else we didn't talk about that you guys wanted to mention, or
just some important closing remarks, and that's where you can buy this album. So the best place to go is either our website,
bring it a little bit closer, because it's zooming in, or maybe back out. I don't know, because it's zooming in on you and not the. There you go.
Ta-da! So you can head to www.gotm.band. It's our main website, or ghostofthemachineofficial.com. You can find it on Bandcamp, ghostofthemachine.bandcamp.com, or you can buy it direct from our label at essentials.progrock.com. So those are the best
And
places to get.
I don't know why I skipped by it, but that cover, talk about the art because
Oh, yes.
I mean, we almost skipped that, and that would have been a real mistake. Uh, Beautiful cover, and I haven't seen the inside. I think you actually might have sent me some of the inside pictures, but
Should have done, yeah.
just
Hopefully you'll have the physical.
go ahead and talk about that artist and the artwork. Where did you?
Yeah, so it's Claudia Caranfa once again, our Italian friend. She illustrated Sis Games, and I think she went even further in my estimations with this wonderful piece of work for Empires Must Fall. The first album, I gave her a little sketch for her to work with, and she made that into something that actually looked great, and I love the color scheme of it. But I think this is super, super striking with
Yeah. That's
the
like the
Empress.
gatefold. Yeah.
Yeah, same concept as before. That the booklet opens out into the full image. I love the color scheme that went with, and the power that emanates from the Empress is something that Claudia does so well. She specializes in illustrating badass women. That was exactly what I needed for both these album
Yeah.
covers, and boy did she deliver. So yeah, thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, I really would have felt bad because I loved that cover, and when I first saw it,
I'll be sure to pass that on.
Andy.
Yeah, no, I think she's excelled herself on this one. I think between me and Charlie, I was always a little, he'll agree, on the first cover, I was a little, I don't know, I was like, oh, I don't know, I think, like, for example, the Shadows of Mercury EP and what's the other one?
Age of Distractions, the one you really liked.
Yeah, I really like the covers of those, for example. It was like, small, and I was thinking, I'm not sure we've hit it on the mark on the first one, but it's grown on me. I think it was right, for what the story was and all the rest of it, and then certainly with this one, no, I think she's knocked it out of the park. I really do. It looks amazing.
Do you want to show any of the inside cover stuff, or there's a booklet probably, right?
Yeah. That's what I was showing before.
Okay.
I mean, you won't be able to read it on
Yeah.
the screen, but it's got all the lyrics. It's got a cheesy photo of us. You can see what we actually look like as we are real human beings, believe it or not.
Yeah.
See the
Yeah.
Panopticon, the Watchtower, and things like that. So it's a nice little package, but it really is the front cover that excelled. Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Okay, and I'm sorry we interrupted. Do you have additional comments or anything else you want to add? Because this really was a wonderful album, a wonderful way to close that the two albums together and move on to whatever you're going to go to next. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think I've covered everything that we wanted to say about the album, and then some. It's been a really enjoyable, in-depth discussion. I've enjoyed having a bit of a longer chat. You don't, with some of the print interviews, for example, you don't get as much space to say as much as you want to say. So thank you for giving us an awesome platform to talk about our new record, and we hope that your readers and viewers enjoy the album and enjoy what we've had to say about it. So thanks, Professor Mark. You rock.
Thank you. Yeah, you've got to, even if you've never heard of this band, you absolutely have to give this a chance. Just, I mean, do the YouTubes, do whatever you need to do, but give this band a listen. And once you hear some of this music, I don't know how you could bypass it and say, nah, I don't like that. Um, it is one of the best albums of the year by far.
Thanks,
Don't
man.
know where it's going to fall on that list because
It's early days.
as he had mentioned, there's a lot yet coming. But it definitely, absolutely, when he got it to me real early, I think it was in January, and said, hold on to it. And I've been trying to hold on to it, and then I released it. But just I wanted to write about this immediately because it was that
That's a
good.
good sign.
It really is
Thanks,
that
man.
good. Yeah, no. So yeah, at least give it a chance,
That's very
and I think that's all it needs. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you very
Much appreciated.
Anything else you wanted to say, Andy?
No, I think we've covered it. You know, it's that was a lovely interview. Thank you very much. As
No,
Charlie
that's
said,
fine. Well, hey, thank you both for taking time out of your busy day. I know it's a weekend and everyone wants to just chill out and not have to do, you know, formal discussions. But when you're talking about something you love, it makes it a lot easier. And I love talking to bands and especially when they have something as hot as this is. Yeah, the discussion is easy. You guys have really taken this over, and I appreciate you both being here. And yeah, please get out there, everyone, and at least give this thing a chance. Listen to it, and that's all it'll take. You'll want to hear more, and go back get their other one, Scissor Games, and get the complete story. And can't wait for the next one.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the recording. Any last minute things or?
just thank you very much. Time to speak to you, Professor Mark. It's been great.
No,
Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much again.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.